Welcome to the Cheating Story Lab. I once thought trust was a bond developed over decades. However, I now realize it can crumble in just a weekend. My name is Ethan, and for 12 years I believed my wife Brooke and I had constructed an indestructible relationship. We crossed paths at a mutual friend's wedding in our mid-20s, a connection that felt effortless from our first conversation. She worked in marketing while I was in commercial real estate development. In Portland, we established a serene lifestyle, complete with 2 golden retrievers and a lake house in central Oregon, which we renovated over 5 years into our tranquil sanctuary, a 3-bedroom retreat on Crescent Lake, boasting a dock and 50 feet of waterfront. It was the place where we discussed starting a family and had hosted both sets of parents for Thanksgivings, envisioning our old age together. 6 months prior to the collapse, a fissure appeared. Brooke began attending evening networking events twice weekly. She'd arrive home around 10, slightly flushed, discussing potential clients and industry contacts. I didn't raise concerns. Her job demanded new business development, and she had always been ambitious. When she proposed we spent less time at the lake house due to city connectivity, I felt disheartened but conceded. After all, isn't marriage about compromise? Then came the private phone conversations in another room, a new password for her laptop, her strategic hiding of her phone screen while texting signs I recognized, yet I dismissed them as paranoia. We had been together for 12 years. Solid marriages don't crumble so easily. The turning point occurred one Tuesday evening in March. I arrived home prematurely from an inspection at work to find Brooke engaged in a video call within our home office. The door was slightly ajar and I overheard her laughter, the distinct laugh she once saved exclusively for me. Soft, intimate, the sound of unguarded ease, I remained in the corridor listening as she said, "I'm eager for the weekend. It's been an age." Instead of confronting her instantly, I chose to gather information. I meticulously observed. During the subsequent 3 weeks, I recorded every detail. I observed that she had been purchasing new lingerie, discarded tags found in the bathroom trash. Her social events followed a routine, always concluding on Tuesdays and Thursdays at approximately the same time. She'd taken to wearing a particular scent on those evenings, a deviation from her customary aroma. Initially accessible shared calendar on our joint iCloud account transformed into a private one. I engaged the services of a private detective named Tucker Cross, a former Portland police officer suggested by a coworker who had experienced a turbulent custody battle. Costly at $200 per hour, plus expenses, but meticulous. I provided him with Brooke's schedule, her vehicle's details, and my concerns. After a week, photographs arrived in an encrypted email on a Thursday afternoon. They showed Brooke entering a downtown condo building at 7:15 p.m. and exiting at 10:40 p.m., followed by the same pattern on Tuesday. Tucker traced the condo owner to Jude Morrison, a senior partner at Morrison & Hayes, the most prominent family law firm in Portland. At 46 years old, Morrison was married for 18 years and father of 3 children aged 16, 14, and 11. The coincidence didn't escape me. My wife was involved with a divorce attorney. Tucker's findings extended beyond photos. I uncovered details about Jude Morrison, his $2 million residence in West Hills, vacation home in Bend, 3 children enrolled in private schools, and wife Esther. He was involved with Portland Art Museum and served on 2 nonprofit boards. They seemed like a couple featured in Portland Monthly's Power Couples. Over the course of 72 hours, I contemplated this information, skipped meals, slept in the guest room due to a feigned backache. Brooke paid little attention. She was preoccupied, frequently checking her phone and humming while making coffee, contentment being what pained me most. It was her happiness that cut deepest as I crumbled while she remained visibly joyful. However, grief morphed into calculation. I recognized a chance. Our lake house often remained vacant during the month. Brooke had been urging me to sell it, arguing we didn't utilize it enough to cover the cost. I now comprehend the reason. She intended to sell off the asset due to an impending divorce. However, the property was exclusively in my name, acquired prior to our marriage using funds from my grandfather's estate. The idea crystallized on a Sunday evening as I conversed with Brooke, who was engrossed in her phone on the couch. "I've been contemplating the lake house," I mentioned offhandedly. "You're correct that we haven't utilized it much. What if we organize one final grand weekend there, inviting others to make it memorable before we decide its fate?" Brooke looked up in surprise. "Really?" I had previously encountered resistance from her regarding this topic. "Yes, we should either utilize it effectively or relinquish it." I paused. "Why not ask someone from your professional network to join us?" Invite a colleague or client and let's use this as an opportunity to showcase the place. I observed her contemplating this suggestion, clearly considering a chance to spend a weekend with Jude Morrison under a legitimate pretext at a stunning location with her husband's approval. That's indeed a clever idea, she replied thoughtfully. There's someone in the industry I've been eager to connect with. This could be just the occasion. Absolutely, feel free to bring whoever you choose, I responded. I'll arrange food and logistics. Let's make it during Memorial Day weekend to truly inaugurate summer. She flashed a smile and planted a kiss on my cheek. You're fantastic, I'll reach out. For the next 6 weeks, I watched as Brooke organized her romantic getaway, which I perceived as a networking opportunity. She bought new clothes, had her hair styled, spoke enthusiastically about showcasing Portland's natural charm to potential business contacts. Her deceptions tumbled out effortlessly, causing me to ponder her length of practice, as I simultaneously devised my own strategy. I scrutinized Esther Morrison via social media platforms. Her Instagram was open, showcasing countless photos of her 3 children at soccer matches, piano performances, family ski excursions, and she frequently posted about her husband, always radiant with adoration. Friends praised them as relationship goals and couple inspiration. I established a temporary email account and crafted a message to her. Mrs. Morrison, my name is Ethan. I suspect our spouses are involved in an affair. I have evidence, photographs, and proof. Instead of dealing with lawyers and private confrontations, I believe they should face the consequences jointly in public. My wife has invited your husband to our lakeside retreat for Memorial Day weekend, May 24-27. You might not be aware of who Tucker is. I would like to extend an honest invitation to you and your children to our gathering. I am the owner of the property and assure you of a warm reception. If it intrigues you, I can share the location details. If not, I comprehend, but I believe you should know about the situation at hand. Attached are 3 photos of Tucker, one outside his apartment complex, another from a restaurant in Lake Oswego, and a third showing them in a bedroom, presumably theirs. I've sent you this email. On a Tuesday evening, I waited anxiously for a response which arrived after 36 hours. Dear Ethan, for months I have had my suspicions. I recently hired someone to trail him 3 weeks ago, and I now have my own proof. Your approach might be unorthodox, but it piques my interest. For 2 weeks, we exchanged 12 emails coordinating details, Esther. I detailed the layout of the lake house, sleeping arrangements, and timings for you. You agreed to tell your children they were unexpectedly going on a weekend trip to meet a colleague's family at the lake, which wasn't a complete falsehood, as Brooke was labeled a professional contact. Brooke believed she was arranging a romantic getaway with her unaware husband playing host, while Jude thought he was attending a networking event with a colleague's spouse. The truth would only be revealed when Esther's SUV arrived at the driveway with 3 baffled teenagers. Over Memorial Day weekend, the weather was ideal, 78 degrees, clear skies, and the lake sparkling like crystal. Brooke and I traveled to the lake house on Friday afternoon. She was in high spirits, humming tunes from the radio while discussing how enjoyable it would be to unwind. When does your visitor arrive? I inquired. Tomorrow at around 10 in the morning, she replied. His name is Jude Morrison. He specializes in legal consulting, often handling contract disagreements for tech companies. Quite intriguing individual. I'm eager to meet him, I stated honestly. We spent Friday evening readying the house. I prepared salmon for dinner, Brooke arranged the guest room, and we sat on the dock enjoying the sunset, a routine we'd followed many times before. For a brief instant, I felt a pang of sorrow for what once was or what I had believed to be ours. Then I recalled her laughter during our video calls, discarded lingerie tags in the bin, and the effortlessness of her deceit. On Saturday morning, I rose at 6 and brewed coffee. I messaged Esther, confirming our 11 a.m. meeting, receiving an immediate reply. The kids are thrilled. See you at 9:45. A Mercedes with a silver exterior parked in the driveway. From the kitchen window, I observed Jude Morrison stepping out, tall and fit, sporting high-end casual attire that suggested vacations in Napa. Brooke hastily exited to greet him, and I noticed their overly prolonged embrace before she recalled my presence. I stepped out with an air of ease, greeting him. You must be Jude, thanks for the drive. His handshake was firm, his grin self-assured. I'm glad you could make it. This place is breathtaking. We adore it here, I added. Let me assist with your luggage. We moved indoors. Brooke served coffee while discussing trivialities such as the drive, weather, and lakes fishing. Jude played his part flawlessly, acting professional yet friendly, treating me more like a gracious host than the husband of the woman he'd been with for half a year. At 10:55, I politely withdrew to inspect the dock. From this vantage point, I had a clear line of sight towards the driveway, where at 11:03, Esther's white Suburban arrived, and she walked towards the house at a deliberate pace. Looking through the window, I spotted Brooke and Jude sharing a private joke, their easy camaraderie fueling my suspicions. As I stepped inside, Esther was already knocking. "Ethan, you've arrived. Welcome," I announced, drawing Brooke and Jude's attention to the door. In a blink of an eye, their expressions transitioned from puzzlement to realization to terror. Esther entered with her trio, 14-year-old twin boys and an 11-year-old daughter, smiling amiably. "Jude," she greeted, her tone casual, "what a delightful surprise to find you here." The room fell silent. Jude's complexion paled as he stared at his wife, seemingly seeing a specter before him. Brooke floundered, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly, while one of the twins inquired, "Mom, what's going on? I thought we were meeting Dad's work colleague." "We are, dear," Esther replied calmly, turning to face me. "Thank you for the invitation, Ethan. The drive was scenic." Upon arrival, I introduced Esther Morrison, my wife, to Brooke, and I believe Jude and she are acquainted. Brooke asked what this gathering was about. I responded that it's Memorial Day weekend at the lake house as planned. It seemed like a good idea for us all to spend time together, considering we're family. Jude seemed taken aback, setting his coffee down with a trembling hand. Esther interjected before he could speak, her voice as cold as ice. She warned him not to try explaining anything in front of the children. The 11-year-old daughter started crying, and the twins looked confused, trying to comprehend the situation. One of them inquired about what was happening. I allowed the tension to linger. This was a critical moment. It was when truths could no longer be concealed. Brooke attempted to salvage the situation. "This is unbelievable, Ethan. Whatever you believe is transpiring," interrupted I softly. "I suspect you've been romantically involved with Jude Morrison for half a year, meeting him at his downtown condo on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the evening. I suspect you purchased new lingerie and altered your perfume, while deceiving me about professional gatherings. I suspect this weekend was intended as a romantic escape, banking on my supposed naivety or trust to remain undetected." I extracted an envelope from my coat pocket and offered it to Esther. "I assume," she declared, opening her own envelope and revealing photographs. "You have comparable evidence," she disclosed, her voice even as tears trickled down her cheeks. "There are numerous messages," she asserted, detailing their schedules, discussing leaving their respective spouses, and expressing their shared desire for happiness. I discovered them on the iPad. He often shares that device with our children for schoolwork. One of the twins snatched the iPad from Esther's grasp, his countenance twisted in betrayal. "Son, you mentioned working late with client meetings. Jude reached for you, suggesting a private discussion. However, you resisted, stating that such conversations weren't private as they had been done in the past with everyone else. The ensuing hours were tumultuous. Brooke tried to leave, but you'd taken her car keys. The house was yours, and you refused to let her escape. Jude attempted to manage the situation by conversing quietly with Esther, yet those conversations proved futile. The children oscillated between crying, anger, and silence. Esther and I remained on the deck while our spouses deteriorated internally. "Thank you," she said. "I understand this may appear vindictive, but my kids needed to witness the truth. Brooke was planning to leave me regardless," I replied. Tucker discovered texts regarding timing the divorce, liquidating assets, and starting a new life, which only hastened her timeline. "What happens next?" Esther inquired. "Now," I responded. Esther had initiated divorce proceedings the previous week, using a different law firm to cite adultery and fraud. The affair with Brooke was included in the filing, along with evidence that Jude had used marital funds to support his relationship. I hadn't known about their secret hotel stays, extravagant dinners, or jewelry purchases until it was too late. My attorney had also prepared documents for similar claims against me. Beyond the legal implications, Brooke had been putting pressure on me to sell our lake house, refinance our home, and cover her business expenses, all while planning to leave us. In Portland's family law circles, such actions are considered financial deception during marriage, but the real consequence for Jude Morrison would be damage to his reputation, as it is integral to his livelihood. His law firm is well known for upholding traditional values and advocating for marriage stability and children's welfare. In 2 days after the weekend, 3 colleagues learned about Jude's affair with a client's wife. By the week's end, Esther disclosed the incident to their social circle, the private school community, and various nonprofit boards where Jude was involved. His career didn't collapse right away, but it gradually weakened. Clients requested alternative lawyers, partners excluded him from significant cases. The firm eventually asked for a temporary leave of absence that eventually became permanent after 3 months. Brooks' marketing firm managed the situation more discreetly, but she lost her top 2 clients, both traditional family businesses with conservative values who learned about the affair through mutual acquaintances. Her income dropped by 40% within 2 months, and it took 9 months for legal proceedings to conclude. I retained the lake house, primary residence, and most of our shared assets. Brooks' lawyer, surprisingly not from Morrison and Hayes, attempted to negotiate a settlement, but her evidence of deliberate deceit weakened every argument. Oregon being a no-fault state, judges nonetheless take conduct into account when dividing assets. My judge explicitly stated he found calculated betrayal unacceptable, allowing Esther to extract as much as she could from Jude. She was granted 3 years of spousal support, child support until their youngest turned 18, and the Bend vacation home, which she promptly sold off. Her approach was strategic, precise, and ruthless, a fitting response to the situation. Regrettably, it was the children who suffered most. Esther's daughter completely cut ties with Jude, while the twins maintained only minimal contact, largely for logistical purposes. I learned through Esther that Jude attempted to rebuild relationships, but trust, once broken in front of children, is not easily restored. Brooke made 2 attempts at reconciliation, the first after Memorial Day, claiming she'd erred severely that Jude had manipulated her and we could mend things. I advised her what I had told myself during those 72 hours following Tucker's report. Some amends could be made. The mended never truly heal that occurred during the divorce. She unexpectedly arrived at the lake house, tearfully imploring me to recall what we'd constructed together. I allowed her to finish before responding. I remember a dozen years of what I believed was trust, but you showed me it was false. A year post-Memorial Day, I sold the Portland house and made the lake house my permanent residence. Given that I had been working remotely due to the pandemic, I sought distance from the city, the memories, and the locations where Brooke and I once lived. Esther and I maintained contact. It wasn't romantic. We both required respite from relationships for a while, but as companions who weathered the same catastrophe. Occasionally, she would bring the kids for a weekend visit, and we would let them paddleboard and swim while we conversed on the deck about anything other than our former spouses. Her 11-year-old daughter, who had sobbed that initial day, began referring to me as Uncle Ethan. The situation wasn't premeditated nor forced. It unfolded naturally through closeness and goodwill. The twins grew more comfortable over time, particularly when they understood I had no intention of replacing anyone or intruding where I didn't belong. People might wonder if I regret the confrontation or wish I'd approached it differently. However, my answer is no. While a private discussion in a lawyer's office might have been conventional, it doesn't bring justice. It offers negotiation, cautious speech, and upholds dignity for those who had discarded their dignity long ago. Brooke and Jude desired to inhabit 2 realms concurrently, the exhilaration of the affair and the decent respectability of their marriages. They aimed to dictate the story, manage the disclosure on their terms, and limit the harm to their reputations. I stripped them of that choice. I compelled them to confront their actions in front of those they had injured most, at a place devoid of hiding spots and manipulation possibilities. Was it vindictive? Indeed, it was. Fair. I consider it so. Trust isn't merely an idealistic notion. It's the bedrock of each pledged word, shared plan, and expectation for the future. When someone deliberately dismantles this foundation while appearing friendly across a dinner table, they lose the entitlement to a lenient conclusion. Evenings, I often stand on the dock overlooking Crescent Lake and observe the sunset. The water doesn't concern itself with betrayal or vengeance or justice. It merely mirrors the sky, consistent and unperturbed. There's something soothing in this, a reminder that certain things stay constant amid human turmoil. I'm unsure about Brooke's current whereabouts. The last I heard, she relocated to Seattle and started working at a smaller company. Jude established a solitary legal practice specializing in contract law, distancing himself from the family courts where his standing was tarnished. Esther remarried about 2 years ago to a widower she encountered through the art museum, a reliable, compassionate, and honest individual. Regarding myself, I discovered that trust isn't something accumulated over extended periods. It's an inherent trait or absence. And once lost, no quantity of apologies or clarifications can restore it. Certain betrayals are so thorough, so deliberately destructive, that they become impossible to forgive. That Memorial Day didn't bring closure. Instead, it provided clarity. The unwavering conviction that I took every possible precaution to safeguard myself, that I wasn't foolish or inactive, and when the time came to decide between enduring silence or revelatory upheaval, I chose truth, a decision I would repeat. The lake house, situated on Crescent Lake, continues to welcome weekend visitors, maintains its picturesque vista of the sunset, and remains standing. Once symbolizing my loss, it now signifies what I retained. The one thing Brooke sought from me, the one sanctuary that was solely mine. Some people construct shared futures. Others create deceptions. I discerned the disparity within a single weekend, immersed in mountain air and crystal-clear waters while the deceit finally shattered. Initially, I believed trust was amassed gradually over extended periods. Now, I comprehend it's something to be guarded relentlessly, and without remorse from those who consider it expendable.